Another exciting dose of Blood Bowl for you lovely folks on this week's Radical Roundup. Although we haven't got quite as many high-scoring matches as last week, there's still a couple, and plenty more exciting moments besides. So join me, Rad Wizard Ralph, as I delve into Week 6 of the AWO League's Earth Cup. This matchup poses an existential question for the fans. If a match is exciting by all other definitions of the word, lots of touchdowns, funky leaping plays, good amount of bashing, things like that, and yet the result is the way it happened, was entirely expected, was it really an exciting game? You decide, I suppose. That being said, there is one unusual thing on the Kislev side: Hemlock. The skink rocks training in blocking, dodging and sidestepping, all of which are useful for harassing an orc cage. He also sports a weapon too, although that is famously less useful versus the well-armoured greenskins. He didn't see much action early on, however. The game went entirely as expected. It's no secret that Coach Blue is cautious with his tactics, so the cage never moved much up the pitch as he tried to remove some Kislevites first. This might have been to his detriment this time, though. It meant totally could get into position to leap on in there, wrestling Martha to the ground to get the ball out of her hands. His skill at jumping up off the ground gave him a second shot at it too, once Martha had picked up the ball again, this time knocking her down hard enough to stun her, and giving Lord Croak just enough time to leap in and snap the ball up, sprinting towards the Orcs' touchdown zone. This is where Coach Blue really regrets his lack of forward progress. Coach Diska was more than happy to have Lord Croak wait this one out at the touchdown line. He wasn't under threat from any orcs, after all. Hemlock got his first stab in, too, a stun on Ram Sweeney, which made it even safer. Eventually, he does decide to walk it in, adding to Croak's impressive touchdown tally. There wasn't long left in the half. It was assumed not much more would happen. That was wrong, though, as we got one of the most bizarre kickoffs I've ever seen. The Kislev kicker hoofed it downfield, presumably to make the job of returning it for a touchdown all the more difficult, and as per usual, Martha used her kickoff return training to get into position to catch it. However, suddenly, a bunch of Croak fans swarmed the field, looking to get a selfie with him, or his autograph or something after his latest touchdown. Maybe he's like a reverse Prince Charming. If one of them kissed him, would he turn back into a frog? Either way, that's not important. Running across the field from behind the orc goal, they stunned plenty of the orcs, as well as some of the Kislevites on the line, in order to get to their idol. The farce lasted until he'd signed every one of their books, apart from the unlucky few that ran into an orc fist on the way there. This included Martha, though, meaning the ball donked on her unconscious head and trickled towards the end zone. With not much time left in the half, both teams initiated a mad scramble for the ball, with Martha the only player anywhere near it, and stunned from the fangirl rampage. It was anyone's ball. Cady ran back for the Orcs, but soon he was swarmed by the dynamic duo Toadley and Croak. Still dazzled from the earlier play, Martha fumbled the ball when she got up, meaning the Kislevites could charge in. Toadley and Hemlock removed Martha from the picture, while Croak, buoyed on from his popularity, sprinted in and grabbed the ball for his second touchdown of the match, and almost certainly the most unexpected of his career. Things were not more normal, or, well, as normal as the Kislev team gets for their kickoff. The ball made it to Crazy Frog, who instantly leapt over the Orcish defence and sprinted into the sunset. Despite harassment from Heather, he never lost his footing on the way down to the end zone, bagging the third touchdown of the game for his team. The game looked past the Orcs now, with only 2/3 of the half left to play, but maybe they could at least pull one back for touchdown difference. Their chances didn't look great, almost instantly, as Hemlock ran down the pitch and stabbed Martha in the face. Doesn't seem like it would be allowed, but the refs had no issues with it as she was carted off on a stretcher. She'll miss the next game, but other than that, nothing serious. Coach Blue seemed to have come up with a strategy that beat the Kislev leap play. He set up an extended diamond cage with Cady in the centre clutching the ball. What he didn't count on, though, was Hemlock charging through the whole cage, dodging blows left and right, in order to unleash another devastating stab. He broke Cady's collarbone with that one. Such a serious injury probably spells the end of his Blood Bowl career. With the York offense effectively nullified, Coach Ditka made the call to protect his players and disengaged them from the Orcs, running down the clock to take home a convincing 3-0 victory against one of the finalists from the last cup. These Kislevites are certainly looking like a challenger for this one. The Chaos team had invested for this game. An Astro granite surface was in place, just in case the Bull Centaurs took a nosedive. This must have worried Coach Saf, but would it impact his play? We'll have to see. It looked like it was going to be a standard matchup, both teams poking at each other's lines to see who could break through first. That being said, it didn't take long. The guard-laden dwarves are so hard to punch against, and it showed early on as the Earl shrugged off a tackle from Nary Main to sprint down the pitch at their usual blistering speed, nabbing the first touchdown incredibly early on. However, this meant that with the ball, Coach Honey had a while to be able to fire back. It wouldn't start off well, though, with Wiry Pelt failing a pass to Chamon. This was important, as it gave the Bull Centaurs the time they needed to run around the back, getting tackle zones on the ball. You know what this means, if you've ever played a Bashi versus Bashi matchup. The ball ended up in a huge mess of a melee for almost the entire rest of the half, and despite the best efforts of both teams, it was always end up back on the floor. Chaos did have a second opportunity to level, though, since it was their kickoff in the second half. Another failed pass put this into jeopardy, but this one was much less egregious. It stays near the end, and near a few screening besticores. Despite some risky moves, the dwarves were never able to effectively dispossess any of the Chaos team, not least thanks to a failed sprint from a Bull Centaur, a rare sight. As soon as it looked like the Chaos had gotten away with it, though, whoosh! A fireball rained down from the sky, called on by Coach Saf. It was one almost worthy of my own casting skills, taking down 3 bestigores. The Earl swooped in as always, and scooped it up. This wouldn't last long, though. The dwarves aren't well known for their mobility, and they couldn't get around to support him, meaning he took the full force of a frenzying Minotaur the next turn, which never ends well. At least it wasn't anything too serious. This gave Chaos the chance to regain control of the ball, though, and stabilise. With the Earl off the pitch, things were much easier for them. They could make a cage and stick with it, slowly making progress up the field until they were able to slam it down in the touchdown zone. A rare sight, seeing a Chaos touchdown not scored by their captain. Either way, that about squared away the match. Not the most exciting one, but probably more exciting than most spectators expected, including myself. The game began on the halflings' foot. Despite the humans having their kickoff, a perfect defense meant that the halflings got to reorganize their trees at will. That being said, the humans still managed to break through, ending up with 2 of the trees knocked over. Even then, it wasn't easy to break through the sheer amount of halflings. The humans had to resort to a partial cage right in the centre of the pitch. This wasn't the best place for it, though, as Pepperoni set out to prove that, running about as fast as a tree man can to obliterate one side of the cage. He'll need a match out to recover from that kick. Fortunately for the humans, though, Christian's agility training came into play here, as he deftly dodged away from the tree man, running up to a much safer location, with whatever humans could disentangle from the halfling masses. The halflings would then cede the touchdown, instead going for a foul on Farag, which would yield nothing, and give Christian a free run into the touchdown zone. The trees began to put their legs to work on the line of scrimmage once more. 2 removals followed, which gave the halflings confidence to make a throw play, as if they wouldn't do that anyway. Either way, it didn't work, and the ball ended directly in the hands of one of the humans. Oops! Fortunately for the halflings, the humans didn't manage to capitalize on that. Sprinting down the side of the field, Hildred didn't have the support he needed, and was dispossessed and taken down by a halfling hit squad. Speaking of hits, a cracking one from Deeproot almost kills Helmut. Fortunately, the fish fighter's apothecary was there to save the day, pronouncing him fit to play. Snatching the ball off the ground, the halflings get desperate and try to pass it up the field. However, their stunty little arms means it's hard, and the ball goes just wide of the target. That's enough for the humans to swoop back in and grab the ball. That is, it would be, if they were any good at it. Instead, the ball stays at that point on the pitch until half-time, since no one can pick it up. The trees were a terror off of the line again. after half-time, breaking the armour of the ogre. Their throwing arm wasn't quite as effective, however. Throwing Haggis short, he wasn't able to run to the touchdown zone, instead giving the ball up after failing to dodge away from the human line. Christian was right there to scoop it up and dive down the same side of the field he scored down before. This time, though, there were a whole host of halflings there to stop him, and the trees weren't about to stay down quite as easily. This meant that Deeproot was able to stomp his way over, but more pivotally, Puggy takes down Christian. He's not injured badly, but enough that the humans lose their star ball carrier for the rest of the match. Consequently, both teams struggled to get the ball off the ground and hold on to it. The trees were racking up removals, including one on the ogre, but the halflings were looking thin on the ground too. It was a nail-biter, folks, and in the end it came down to a single dodge and pickup for the humans to seal away the game. Fortunately, Meinholf was trained in at least one of these things, and scooped it up for the victory, sprinting into the end zone for the first time in a while. This gave the halflings one more kickoff, and you know what that means. One more throw! It went about as well as the last two, though, which ended the excitement for this game as the humans just played butterfingers with the ball for the last couple minutes. A close one, that, despite the 2-0 win for the humans. This game has got to have the literal worst start for a team I've ever seen in my long and illustrious commentating career. A pitch invasion. Goodness knows how they could even stomach going anywhere near that pitch, let alone on it, while those putrid beasts roam there. But here we go. I won't complain, because when the stampede was over, I got to see 6 Nurgle players stand to the floor, and Oatl holding the ball. And to top it all off, 2 more rotters will be sent to the floor by the lizards opening punches. What a start! Obviously, after that mess, it was trivial for Oatl, with a little help in the form of a block from Uta, to run it down into the touchdown zone for the first touchdown of the match, and likely one of the easiest of his career up until this point. It doesn't get any better for the Nurgle team either. One of their Nurgle warriors failed a block, handing the initiative over to the lizards, and the speedy skinks were more than happy to take advantage. Mundi sprinted over to the ball, easily poaching it. However, his Saurus support wasn't quite as quick, and that meant he was easy prey for the pestigores waiting in the back, knocking him over for a sack. And here we go, with the punchy team devolution again. The rotter that picked up the ball was instantly sacked again by a Saurus, and then Mundi was almost sacked immediately after picking up the ball again, but a swift dodge on the punch kept him on his feet, if not in the greatest position. It would take an incredibly well-worked team goal to break the deadlock, and luckily for us, strategically minded spectators, we got to see a masterclass from Coach Nu and his team. One Saurus makes a block, the other blitzes and does the same, clearing the way. Then Mundi runs up and hands the ball off to a skink further up the pitch, who in turn runs it straight into the touchdown zone. Excellent play, and really shows why this is a playoff caliber team. Let's hope they can get back up there. Coach Keese, on the other hand, is a lot less experienced, and probably a little desperate to get one back at this point in the game. After a few turns of posturing, he sees a tiny gap, and goes for it, right down the sideline. What he didn't account for was the skinks waiting in the back, though. Rushing up, they managed to push the unsupported ball carrier off the field, and the resulting throw-in was nothing short of disgusting, just like the Nurgle team itself. It bounces all the way, almost to the Nurgle end zone, where Quacks just happened to be for no good reason, other than this, I suppose. He nabs the ball up, and with the only rotter within the same postcode as him blocked by a Saurus, runs it into the end zone for one of the biggest, if not the biggest, first-half scores we've ever seen in this tournament. This led us into the second half. The Nurgle team had the kickoff, but did it really matter? The Lizards were coasting. Their best players had been subbed off to protect them, and they just played it slow. Perhaps too slow, as it meant Coach Keese quickly busted through one side of the line, making a quick handoff to set Sandar free, and running towards the touchdown zone. Maybe there was a chance after all. Turns out there wasn't. His hopes were quashed by the Skink Brigade, who once again stopped the ball carrier in his tracks, this time by virtue of a failed dodge. They managed to recover the ball too, but their slow play cost them again. They were trying to hold out and run the Nurgle team around the pitch, using the Skink's speed, but they never managed to get it out of their backfield. This would have been fine, had they not forgotten about the downed Sandar. He'd waited until the Skink ran back to his side of the pitch to pounce on it, grabbing the ball for himself as his teammates came around to support him. He wouldn't be sacked this time, that's for sure. With a little help from them to clear the way, Sandar made it that this defeat wasn't a total waste of time, and a total embarrassment for Coach Keese. He'd played the second half well, 3-1. That would be how it ended, though, and a good look for the Lizard team. Perhaps they are coming out of their slump, ready to make a run for the playoffs again. We'll see. Coach Keese will feel hard done by this game, but he shouldn't be down. Nurgle will respond well to training. So with more of that, and more match experience under their belt, and his belt too, they'll hopefully be challengers in the future. Well, hopefully for him anyway. I hope to never see them again. Ta-ta! This game was exciting for a few reasons, even before it started. A game of firsts and lasts. We'd be seeing the debut of hot new signing Obi-Wan Kenobi to the Wood Elf side, an up-and-coming youngster who Coach Chara was hoping will be able to bring his team to a new level. And on the flip side, this would be the last we'd see of Coach Tony. The busy coach will be retiring after just 1.5 competitions in charge of the undead squad. We wish him well, but that doesn't mean Coach Chara will be going easy on him. After their brutalizing last week, the Wood Elves had a skeleton crew of a team, with almost more drafted-in players than regular team members. Fortunately, one of these players was famed Amazon linewoman, Zara the Slayer, armed with a stake she is more than willing to use on the undead facing her, and she did so on the line of scrimmage, sending Ulrich off the pitch. The game was off to an exciting start, almost straight away. Underestimating the Wood Elves' extreme ball-moving prowess, the undead team committed to one side of the pitch, on which the elves held the ball, only for Zaxathrone to lob it over to rookie Obo, who sprinted down the absolute other side of the pitch. With the only skeletons nearby being marked, it was nothing more than a formality for the War Dancer to pop the ball down for the first of hopefully many touchdowns in his career. The inexperience of facing Wood Elves to Coach Tony was becoming apparent. He set up Mudflare in his usual cage setup in the centre of the field on his own drive, only for Harpshooter to jump on in after the tree had pushed away one of the corners. He took down Mudflare out for the rest of this game, and the ball bounced free, perfectly for Obo to pick it up. Despite being dispossessed a turn later, there were no ghouls close enough to attempt a ball pickup, and therefore Obo just hopped up and grabbed the ball once again as soon as he'd recovered from the block. This time he wouldn't be stopped, as the ref sending off a fouling skeleton put a stop to the undead's plans, and Obo strolled in for his second touchdown of the match, and only in the first half. However, with each touchdown, the Wood Elves have to face another line of scrimmage, and they were starting to run low on players. The undead would get another chance after half-time to perhaps equal out the game. Would it be possible with a half-time pep talk? It looked to start off well, with another couple breaks on the flimsy Wood Elf armour, and even the tree being felled. However, the ref was merciless today. 2 send-offs on skeletons right at the start of the half meant that, although there were plenty in the sub-box, there were a few missing on the pitch. And there was almost no better team than the Wood Elves to abuse this fact, and Harpshooter was more than happy to leap inside a hastily constructed cage once more and take down Carnivore Splitter. He's been on point with these today, as has Obo, being in all the right places, in all the right times to pick up the ball whenever it bounces loose. Part of it is obviously good coaching, but to give some credit to the rookie, after snatching up the ball from the prone Carnivore Splitter, he was on track for a hat-trick in his very first match. Carnivore Splitter dropped back after this kickoff, as the undead endeavoured to clear the pitch before setting up another cage. However, despite getting an injury on Harpshooter, valuable for sure, the ref continued his rampage. There were now 4 skeletons sitting sent off the pitch. This meant that the ghoul carrying the ball was open too. It would be a long shot, running after him, but not impossible. The ghoul proved too hard to take down, however, as the elves were left vulnerable. Carnivore Splitter handed off to John in preparation for a sprint down the pitch, but in came Zara, heroine of the day, to knock him down. And who's there to pick up the scraps? You'd better believe it was Obo, putting in likely the best rookie performance we've ever seen in this league, with his 4th touchdown of a very exciting game. Astounding. There was quite the TV difference here, to begin with. That means we'll be seeing Grim Ironjaw once more, starting in his second appearance for this specific dwarf team, although he's been on tons of rosters in the past. He'll be frenzying about on the pitch as good as any troll slayer would, but with the added strength from his special never-released training regime. It didn't take long before things got interesting. The teams traded punches, as usual, to begin, but one of these punches was a wild haymaker from Splint Chesthair that straight up killed Gorethirster, one of the better linemen on the Orc squad. His team's apothecary couldn't do anything for him, and he was carried off in a coffin. What a start! The defence was slowly breaking down now for the Orcs. These dwarves were on something fierce today, and the Orc armour just didn't hold up. Not a minute went by on the pitch without one or the other of the Orcs stunned, and halfway through the half they had 4 players off the pitch. Stalling a dwarf cage is difficult at the best of times, but down this many players it was almost impossible. This meant the dwarves could cruise down the more open side of the field to grab the first touchdown of the match. Elementary stuff for Coach Zaney, but always nice to see a good game plan executed properly. Games have been very wacky recently, so this is a welcome contrast. That about closed out the half as well, with many of the knocked-out players returning. Would the Orcs be able to mount a counter-offensive to tie the game up? It didn't start off well. A blitz from the Orcs meant that they managed to knock down an Orc even before the ball landed in the kick, and get themselves into a better position. A failed dodge from Chomp Master followed, and some punches sprinkled in here and there, of course. This meant that the dwarves could get an even better position, even advancing on the ball the Tacknet had just barely got to. Splint Chesthair was about to make his second big play of the match. He ran almost the width of the field, not easy on those little dwarven legs, and slapped Tacknet to the floor. Not only that, but he also grabbed the spinning ball from the air, easy as you like, also not a common feat for a dwarf. He is having a wonderful game today. He wasn't about to score yet, though. Despite it being a pretty easy one, he saw a way to take down Tacknet once and for all. Shoving him nearby to the sidelines, Crunch Buttsteak sprinted in and shoved him further into the crowd. Unfortunately for the crowd, though, this was the Goblin, and he escaped without injury, after maiming at least 3 spectators. Splint took a while, even from his advantageous position, to dump the ball in the touchdown zone. He had to stop for a breather right on the edge. After all, a dwarf can only run so far. In the end, though, he made it, putting the game past the Orcs most likely, and dobbing off probably the best performance of his career so far. They weren't about to let up the pressure, though, just in case. Another blitz off the kick knocked out another Orc. This meant that Tacknet was in desperation mode. He sprinted headfirst to Crunch, holding the ball, hoping to get far enough up the pitch to where he couldn't be caught by the slow dwarves, but only managed to knock them both down, injuring himself. Thankfully for Coach Stryker and all the DeBonks fans, it wasn't anything serious, although that dispossession would effectively mark the end of the game. Well played to both coaches. Even if you didn't see this match, I'm sure you can guess just how it went from the scoreline, so perhaps we can speedrun the highlights. Spikeball gets injured, Dart one isn't so hard anymore, Chainsaw finally gets her revin and chops up Batra, but unfortunately, the apothecary is there. Stupid Troll is stupid, knocks himself over, at least he tried. Skink makes some spicy dodges, 1-0. Secret weapons sent off, except bribing happens. The tackler gets sent off, no bribing happens. The brains is chucked through the air, it works somehow, 1-1. Secret weapon is sent off for real this time. The throne is injured, not food is injured. Batra fails a pass, so Gobbos make a million dodges and grab it. Batra is injured again. Lizards make a reverse cage to stop dodges. It works. The second Batra grabs the ball and sprints down the field. 2-1, half-time. The spare dies. At least he was a spare. We're running out of Gobbos now, so it's easy to run into the touchdown zone. 3-1, same again. 4-1. The ball ends up in a big mess at the side of the pitch. Game ends. Whoop! Well, that about rounds up this week's Radical Roundup. Don't forget to check in soon for the extreme insights for Week 7, folks. You won't want to miss it, as we introduce the newest coach to the league, taking over our undead contenders.